Turn heads and bring the hype with a custom hype chain from Lotwin. Perfect for youth sports, fantasy football, or just flexing your pride. Go to Lotwin.com, use the promo code TCCPOD for 10% off your order. That's Lotwin.com, promo code TCCPOD for 10% off. Get your custom hype chain and get hype with Lotwin. What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for November 10th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a game day Monday edition of the podcast. Yes, it seems like it's been forever, but we will have Eagles football tonight. We'll get into all of that here in a minute. But first, like we do every Monday, let's rewind the weekend, brought to you by Philly Goat. Go to phillygoat.com, use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order. All kinds of new Sixers stuff coming out on Philly Goat. I was actually able to order the Play the Song hoodie over the weekend, so looking forward to that. But go to Philly Goat, use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. And kind of a mixed bag for the Sixers. Split over the weekend. They beat the Raptors on Saturday, 130 to 120. Black jerseys, hip-hop was back. A good time to be down at the X. Trendon Watford with a triple-double on Saturday night. 20 points, 10 assists, 17 rebounds. Joe looked more like his normal self, scoring 29. Still kind of deferring to Tyrese and the younger guys, which is good. Tyrese added 31. And I still think once they get going and adjust it, they'll be okay. And I think you saw that last night. Detroit is a pretty decent team, losing 111-108. But they had the lead. They blew a 10-point lead in this game, made a furious comeback at the end. Tyrese's three-pointer didn't come up. He ended up with 33, but most of those happened in the fourth quarter when they were trying to come back. And this team still struggles to do stuff in the second half. And I think part of it's because it's a young team. Part of it is Jarrett McCain's still on a minutes restriction. Joe is still on a minutes restriction. We haven't had Paul George back. VJ Edgecombe is still trying to learn. But they're 6-4 after the first 10 games. I don't think anybody would have expected that. So I'll take it. And they very easily could be 8-2 after 10 games, if not better. So I think the best is still yet to come for this team. And I know what you're all thinking. I'm just letting you know the facts are the facts. They're playing well. They can't put together a full game yet. There's a lot of moving pieces in and out of the lineup. I think they'll get it. But especially if you're going to get triple doubles and 17 rebounds from Trendon Watford. I mean, I didn't have that one on my bingo card. So a mixed bag for the Sixers. They're off tonight. They're back in action tomorrow against the Celtics. And then the Flyers. Lots of news coming from the Flyers. They lost on Saturday 3-2. Battled back against the Senators. They were out in Ottawa. Matvei Michkov and Jamie Drysdale both scored. Matvei seems to be starting to get in shape a little bit. They're still in good shape from a young team perspective. But I guess the news after the game was Sean Couturier, the captain, kind of called out Michkov, saying he needs to do more than score goals. And a lot of people are making a big deal about this. But look, this dude's a young guy. Admitted that he did not work out as hard as he could in the offseason. So he's working to get in shape. And, I mean, as the captain, yeah, you do need to do more than that. So I don't think it's a biggest deal as everybody's making it out to be. We'll see what happens as it goes. But Flyers losing to the Senators on Saturday 3-2 in overtime. So at least they got the points for that. And then some sad news. Mel Bridgman, former captain of the Flyers, from I think it was the 79-80 and the 80-81 season. Mel was the captain. Also, the only player the Flyers have ever drafted number 1 overall passed away. So condolences to the Bridgman family. Only number 1 overall pick in Flyers history. Former captain passes away over the weekend. All right, the Union know who they're going to be playing in the Eastern Conference semifinals, and it will be New York City FC. That won't be until Friday, November 21st, though. We got a little bit of time here due to the FIFA window that's open. And congratulations to Bradley Carnell, who is the MLS Coach of the Year. Let's end it with an MLS Cup. Tough one for my Owls, who lose to Army 14-3. They did cover the spread, though. But Army controlled the clock in the second half, and I feel like every time they play Army and Navy, they struggle, going back to Al Golden days. So Temple remains 5-5, still looking for that elusive 6th win to become bowl eligible. They have Tulane at home in a couple weeks. They're off next week. And then they have Tulane at home and then North Texas. Hopefully they can get one of the wins here and go bowling for my Owls. Villanova continues to impress, winning 28-10 down in Townsend. So far, the only loss for the Wildcats is up in Penn State, which I don't know, if you put them back on the field again, they might beat Penn State. All right, Big 5 action over the weekend. St. Joe's beat Drexel 76-65. That opens up the new tournament-style play, pod play, I guess they call it, for the Big 5, culminating with the Big 5 Classic down at the X. Temple plays LaSalle on Tuesday down at the Liacouras Center. But the big story, it's Eagles game day. Finally, it seems like it's been forever, and it's going to be cold out in Green Bay. I don't think that's going to matter. You heard Jordan Davis say, I don't give an F about the cold. So we'll see what happens with that. Be sure to check out the new Brotherly Birds breakdown. Still not too late if you haven't. That is available wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. Jair Alexander will not be making the trip out to Green Bay. More of a, I don't know if it's more serious than what we were led to believe with the knee injury, or whether this is just kind of seeing what you got with the other guys and giving him time off. But he is not making the trip to Green Bay. Essentially came off as though it's knee injury management. Like, we know all about that here. Cam Jurgens is also out in this game. Does appear they're questionable, but they were all full participants in practice. Jacorian Bennett, Nolan Smith, and Willie Lampkin all practiced in full all week and are questionable. So that's huge, especially specifically Nolan Smith and Jacorian Bennett. Hopefully, with him being out, he had time to really pick up Vic's system. That'd be a huge just depth piece to have in that secondary. Around the NFL yesterday, it was nice to see the Giants choking again. Commanders lost again. So this would be, the Eagles could essentially, the Cowboys were off, but the Eagles could go up, I think, 2.5 games on the Cowboys, 3.5 games maybe with the tie. I'm not sure, but could kind of put a stranglehold here going into mid-November on the NFCs with a win. And then the other story was, you won't see this on any of the national news, I'm sure, but all of the talk about the things that Jalen doesn't do, and all he does is keep winning. What would have happened if Jalen Hurts, who actually played halfway decent, wasn't his best game, but played decent in that loss to the Giants, a game the Eagles should not have lost, the first one. If Jalen goes out and plays and does what Josh Allen did against the Miami Dolphins, he would be skewered. But you're not going to hear that. You're going to hear, he didn't have any receivers. Okay. So if you're an elite quarterback and the best quarterback in the league, make the guys around you better, especially for the Miami Dolphins, who were selling. Come on. It's just one of those things, and this is why I say the whole everybody hates us, we don't care, is the biggest lie we tell ourselves. Because it pisses me off that if that was Jalen, it would have been, he's terrible, he's overrated, he's a glorified running back, blah, 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 blah. But Josh Allen goes out and plays like crap, and it's going to be, he didn't have his receivers. Get out of here with that. The other news was something was released, and it was kind of interesting. Micah Parsons with the trade to Green Bay. Jerry Jones put in a clause somehow, and I guess it worked both ways for both players. But if they trade him to anybody in the NFC East, the Packers owe the Cowboys another first round draft pick. Which, if Howie Roseman really wants Micah Parsons, he's going to get Micah Parsons, give up of that first round draft pick to the Packers for him, and then say, all right, I'll get my first round pick back. But I just thought that was interesting that Jerry Jones included that provision. They called it a poison pill, that if you trade him to the NFC East, you owe us a first round draft pick. But it is game day. Looking forward to this game. I think this is a huge statement game, especially with Detroit looked a lot better. Granted, it was against Washington. The Rams looked a lot better. Granted, it was against the 49ers who were banged up. But this will go a long way in solidifying the Eagles as the top team in the NFC. So looking forward to it. Again, don't forget the Brotherly Birds breakdown. We take a look back at the trade deadline and get you ready for this Packers game. So what happened this weekend in Philly sports history? Well, November 8th, let's go back to 1986. Temple loses to Boston College, but Paul Palmer had himself a day. 212 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 11 receiving yards, and even threw a touchdown pass. So kudos to Paul Palmer, who in 1986 did finish second in the Heisman Trophy voting. And that is today's trivia question. Who was first? Who won the Heisman in 1986? Hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line 267-495-8531. Get that. Anything else Philly sports related off your chest. The Discord channel is open. First link in the description. Give me your Eagles prediction as well. But today's trivia question, who won the Heisman Trophy in 1986? All right, 1 year later in 1987, the Eagles beat Washington 31-27. Randall kind of started to step into his own. 268 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 of them to Mike Quick, 1 to the trash man, Greg Garrity. He also added 80 rushing yards, and the touchdown pass to Garrity came with a minute left. It was a game winner, and the defense forced 4 turnovers. Back in 1981, Ron Jaworski, 4 touchdown passes, Wilbert Montgomery, 118 rushing yards. Defense forces 5 turnovers as the Eagles go to St. Louis and win 52-10. And then in 2015, Sam Bradford, 295 yards and a touchdown. Jordan Matthews had a game. DeMarco Murray had a game as the Eagles beat the Cowboys 33-27 in overtime. And then November 9th, 1980, Eagles beat the Saints 34-21. Jaworski, another big day, 323 yards, 3 touchdowns, all to Harold Carmichael, who had 89 yards to go with those 3 touchdowns. Eagles improved to 9-1 on the season. And then 1984, one of the, I guess depending on how you look at it, iconic days, dark days. I was going to say black eye, but that would be too much of a pun there. But the Sixers lose to the Celtics 130-119. Dr. J and Larry Bird got into a fight. Moses Malone was throwing punches, hit Chris Ford in the face. Just an ugly day in the Sixers-Celtics rivalry. But this was the iconic, I guess, infamous fight between Dr. J and Larry Bird. And that's what happened over the weekend. We rewind the weekend every Monday. Brought to you by Philly Goat. Go to phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. But it's game day. Let's go, Birds. Be sure to follow me on social media at Philly Jimbo. Continue to spread the word. YouTube, Jimbo_Mont. That's how you get this, as well as the Brotherly Birds breakdown. And then, of course, don't forget the fundraiser coming up in less than a week. I guess a little less than a week. The gift and food drive benefiting the Matty Ann Dixon Community Cupboard. All those details I'll have later this week, but I'm looking forward to the 3rd annual gift and food drive benefiting the Matty Ann Dixon Community Cupboard. This day in Philly sports history is proud to be a part of the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network, where passionate fans make powerful content. Check out theclashingconferences.com and join the squad today. All right, November 10th. We're going to go back to 1985. And first, Sad day in Flyers history. Flyers goalie Pelle Lindbergh died in a car crash in the early morning hours. Well, was in a car crash. They kept him alive because he was an organ donor. I think as well to get his parents in from Sweden to see him. He would die a day later, but sad day for Flyers fans. And the lesson is here, kids, do not drink and drive. But had his whole career ahead of him, was coming off a season where he was the Vezina Trophy winner, played well in the Stanley Cup Finals. Just a sad day. And that happened in the early morning hours on November 10th. Later that day, though, in 1985, the Eagles blew a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter to the Falcons. Game goes to overtime. They force a punt on the Falcons' first possession. It was down at the 1-yard line. 2nd and 10. Ron Jaworski steps back, hits Mike Quick on a cross, who takes it to the house, 99 yards for the walk-off 99-yarder in overtime. It was the 6th time there was a 99-yard touchdown pass in NFL history. 7 more times has happened since then. I didn't look up the rushing, but I know Derrick Henry, I was playing him in fantasy the day he had his 99-yard touchdown run. But Mike Quick with a 99-yard walk-off overtime touchdown on this day in 1985. Eagles beat the Falcons 23-17. Fast forward to 1991. And the Eagles fall behind the Browns 23-0 and then trailed 30-17 at halftime. It was one of those rare off halves in the first half for the Eagles defense that year, who were just phenomenal. But in the second half, they got it together, shut out the Browns. Jim McMahon did just enough, led 3 field goal drives, and then a touchdown pass to Calvin Williams late in the game to give the Eagles the 32-30 win. They moved to 5-5, improving their slim, but they did have playoff hopes. That season they would go 10-6 and not make the playoffs. Back when typically if you went 10-6, you made the playoffs. All right, and then finally today, until we're doing the headlines from the newspaper, random years in the past 25 years as part of our celebration for the first 25 years of the century. And today we're going to go back to 2019 and look at what was happening in the Philadelphia Inquirer on this day. Eagles were 5-4 and on a bye, and the big story was there is no wide receivers. Deshaun Jackson was hurt. Who else was there? I'm trying to think. I just looked at it. But Deshaun Jackson was hurt. Nelson Aguilar had taken a step back, which we know this is right around the time where the guy was like, we was catching him, not like Aguilar. Just a struggled time for the Eagles receiving corps. Ruben Amaro Jr. was let go by the Mets. If you remember, he left his general manager post, became the first base coach, and then was an advisor, and then the Mets cut ties, which pretty much led the way to him coming back and doing some of the pre- and post-game show, doing some of the color commentary on the Phillies broadcast. There was a nice feature article about Upper Dublin native Susie Colbert, who actually grew up right up the street from me, and her induction into the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. Flyers had just lost a shootout to the Toronto Maple Leafs, but still were in the thick of the playoff race at 9-5-2. Sixers were 5-3, taking on Charlotte, but Ben Simmons was out with a shoulder strain. Maybe this was when it all started to fall apart for Ben. Who knows? And then Temple Owls basketball were 2-0 to start the season under Aaron McKee. It was kind of a quiet day on this day in 2019, and I told you this was all random through AI. So very quiet day, and as it typically is with the Eagles on a bye week. But that bye week now is over. Looking forward to that Eagles game tonight. On this day in 1991, the Eagles come back to beat the Browns 32-30 to move their record to 5-5. In 1985, sad day as Pelle Lindbergh was in a car accident on this day, would not pass away until the following day. However, he was able to donate his organs, so something good came out of it in that regard. And then later that day, Mike Quick with a 99-yard walk-off touchdown in overtime to give the Eagles the win. All right, be sure to check out the Brotherly Birds breakdown. I think ultimately this comes down to just playing Eagles football. And we've started to see that and started to come back. And I think as long as the Eagles play the way they're capable of playing, they're a better team than the Packers. I think you got to get pressure on Love and contain him. But ultimately, the Eagles are a damn good team. They need to start playing like it, and they have the past couple of weeks. So I look, Nick Sirianni's 4-0 out of the bye. I like the Eagles. Right now, last I saw, it was the Eagles +1. So take the Eagles on the money line, get the plus money on it. But I think we're about to see them kind of flip that switch and really start getting into gear. Much like you saw with the Rams yesterday, much like you've been seeing with the Lions, I think it's time for this team to kind of exert a little bit of his dominance. So looking forward to it. Of course, we'll have a recap for you tomorrow. But man, now I just got to get through the day. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for November 10th, 2025. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Monday. And until next time, go Birds.